episode of The Diplomat, brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com. I am Wardy, and once again, I'm joined by Eric Grinnell. Hello, Eric.
Hello, guys and girls.
I'm bespectacled now. I've had my lenses in today, and I've taken them out. My voice is better than I feared it might be, but I am emblazoned with my my Wimbledon shirt. I have been up to Fleetwood today to watch my beloved Wombles snatch a draw from the jaws of victory, and yeah, we threw it away, but we still have maybe a fighting chance on the final day. Fingers crossed.
Point's the point. You take the draw, man.
Yeah, well, we'll take the draw. We need a whole lot of things to go our way between now and next Saturday at 6 o'clock. So we'll see how it goes. I live in hope. But yeah, you might remember that we had a slide where Eric was showing me all the various towers that America had copying the Eiffel Tower from Paris, and I caught a glimpse of the top of this building today. This is Blackpool Tower. I passed it. I wasn't in Blackpool, but I was in a nearby town, and I saw it from the distance. I thought, oh, I'll show off this, because this it was inspired by the Eiffel Tower, but it's kind of the time, and it was only built like 5 years after the Eiffel Tower was, and it's about half the size. But yeah, it
was it originally a radio transmitter, perhaps?
I know it was built to be this. I think there's a ballroom at the top. Blackpool was certainly in for the north of England, where all the Victorian holidaymakers went on their when they were allowed to, and right on the seaside. This is the Irish Sea. This is on the Lancashire coast, which will be in the Liverpool province on a diplomacy board. And other towers did surpass it, but have since gone. And this has become iconic for Britain. And when it was built, it was the tallest man-made structure in the British Empire. So I thought, yeah, I'll show off one of our own. Because generations of children off to the beach and off to the pleasure, the Blackpool Pleasure Beach there to go on the rides have always been excited on the train or in the car heading, and been looking out for their first glimpse of the Blackpool Tower on their way, and been fooled numerous times by electricity and telephone pylons. But here it is, in all its glory.
Well, thanks for that.
So I did say, apologies, I did say in our last stream that we didn't have any new artwork from Lady Razor, and I was telling fibs. I'd neglected to show off these beauties, so I'll show you them now. Sadly we lost Jordan last time out, and this is basically how his game went. Here he is in the trenches, trying to rally his German and Italian neighbors to deal with France. Sullivan, Krill, stick with me and we'll sort out that blighter Ewok. Yes, sir. And there they are. He's gone over the top on his own, gets killed, and yeah, the Frenchman and the Italian found it ever so amusing.
It's not a caricature, because it's true. So this isn't a distortion of reality. This is a perfect conveyance of it. So
sorry for him.
Lady Razor drew a real life still. I would say that is not what exit wounds look like, and they're not nearly so pretty.
Oh heck! I won't ask how you know. Here's one from Max, flushing poor goldfish Jordan down the toilet. Don't worry, kids. He will swim to the ocean to be with his friends. Oh dear. Well, you know, he's been back on playing a lot of Gunboat recently, so he's keeping himself occupied outside of the game. Now he is no longer in it, and I should say that Eric and I just the other day recorded an interview special with Jordan, which will be shown once the game has finished. So we've all got that to look forward to as well.
Carl, we're looking forward to talking to you as well, sir.
There we go. We've got Germany beating up on Russia this time with the Sweden-Norway exchange, and then throwing all his units east, and sort of leaving France behind him. We'll see if that's a good or bad idea. And here are the moves from spring 1905. We've got a whole lot of things, I suppose, to mention. We've got Ed leaving Belgium and Edinburgh for guaranteed takes for Greg, while he moves even harder against Spencer in Russia. Spencer's helped by Krill with that Serbia support. It had the Italian not of added support there, then Karthik might have been in with a chance of growing up to 2. We've got this lovely double convoy, Albania to Bull, and John is teaming up with Ed. There's still no RT cooperation after what we were saying in the last video, that there needs to be some now. There still isn't. It seems to be Russia and Italy, Russia with Italy and Turkey with Germany in this instance. And John, I assume that is to save the fleet pulling Bulgaria South Coast back into Con with Power 2, so it doesn't get blown up, because that's a horrible thing to happen in spring. So where do we want to start?
I want to start with Germany and France. As you pointed out, Ed has basically given up the opportunity to have a defensible position in Belgium and Edinburgh. He hasn't given up the dots yet because they haven't been taken yet. And because of the way these gentlemen have played thus far, we can't assume anything about who's going to take what from the other until it happens. Because up until this point, which is the midpoint of the game, Spring 05, none of what has happened between Greg and Ed has been dictated by the board. It has been controlled by clearly their own spoken arrangements with one another. So I am not going to state that, yes, Greg is going to take Belgium and yes, Greg is going to take Edinburgh until I actually see them change hands. However,
yeah,
it has the appearance here that they have had an agreement with each other on who is going to get what. If you look at the supply center count, Germany is at 10, France is at 7. If France were going to take Belgium and Edinburgh, that would make the supply center count France 9, Germany 8. However, look at this map. Ed could guarantee now that he can take Warsaw and St. Petersburg. So it's 10-7 Germany turns into 9-8 France, which turns into 10-9 Germany. Budapest is still out there and vulnerable. It's less vulnerable because Russia's got a fleet in Romania, not an army. The only one who is going to be able to make Ed lose Budapest is Matt Krill. And Matt seems to be showing a predisposition to not want to do that. So I am not certain, looking at this map, that Ed is going to lose Budapest. This map increasingly, more and more, looks like a three-way alliance between Greg and Ed and Matt Krill, who have decided between them that, yeah, we're going to split the board up. And everyone else on the board, Karthik, Jordan, John, Spencer, are waking up to the game too late to do anything about it. And to be clear, it is already too late for any of them to do anything about it. Not just Jordan, because he's off the board, but also Karthik and John and Spencer, because all of them put together no longer have the ability to stand up to, all three of them put together couldn't stand up to Ed. So if Ed has any assistance from Matt Krill or from Greg, every other player on the board except for Greg and Matt has no chance whatsoever. This board is now about nothing but Ed and Greg and Matt. And the other
surely
three
they
players
have
left
to
on the board,
fight at some point.
the other three left on the board are just window dressing. Just window dressing. And if Greg and Matt and Ed, behind the scenes in their own mind, already have a plan on how they're going to turn against each other, you should just vote this thing and be done and go play Candy Crush or something else worthwhile of their time. I think the one here who is most vulnerable is Ed. Matt and Greg have such a large DMZ between them, and it would take so long to shift fronts and direct at each other that in a game that's going to end in 1910, I think they have much faster growth opportunities in other directions, including into Ed, than either of them has trying to attack the other. And when you have an arrangement with an ally that, hey, we're going to stay parity, and behind it, secretly in your mind, you're planning to have some fight at the end for a shot to jump ahead of the other. You want to be the player who starts out smaller so that you have the trajectory at the end, and you have the growth, and you have the new units on the board. It's reflected on this map, if it comes to pass, of Greg getting Belgium and Edinburgh this turn, while Ed gives them up and replaces them with Warsaw and St. Petersburg. Tempo-wise, that favors Greg in France, because he's the small one. He's the one getting builds, dropping them on the board. And when you're putting units on the board and the other player isn't, you get to plan your future with your present builds. Even more true when you're playing Germany, because Germany rapidly, when you get into the late mid game and you get into the end game, Germany frequently finds themselves, in order to hold their line, with all of their building home centers occupied and unable to put new units on the board. I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, for the past 3 years, everything on the board has been moving away from Greg. It's been moving east, away from France. Even Germany now is moving away and leaving dots behind him for Greg to take. That if anyone other than Greg wants to win this game, and I'm convinced that they do, that is unsustainable. It can't keep happening. So at some point, something needs to change. It might be that Ed and Matt need to team up to try and push France back because he's becoming too powerful. Maybe they're hoping to get rid of the power or powers that would stand to benefit in that kind of scenario, which is Turkey. So that trying to perhaps eliminate Turkey or get Turkey close to eliminated, and
you never want to let
really
Turkey. You never want to let Turkey linger. You never want to let Turkey linger because he will always come back and get you at the end. Turkey is black mold. It creeps. And if you leave Turkey in the game, you can never turn and address the line, because if you let Turkey survive, he jumps in behind you as you move to the line, takes a dot, and then with the builds, he takes more dots. So if you're not going to be allied with Turkey, you have to kill Turkey. You can't leave him behind you and hope to have him crippled.
Would you agree then that Turkey is in 4th place on this board in terms of potential? Jordan's out. Karthik's not going to win.
A tie for last and not getting a darn thing is 4th place. Yes. Yeah.
But if there's not going to be, I mean, there's got to be some movement against France at some point. There's got to be. Otherwise, as you say, they might as well just call the game. Just concede. There's got to be. And
Ed had predominant superiority on this map, and his slow playing the arrangement with Greg and hoping to get an advantage against him later is really being squandered here. He's losing that window of opportunity against Greg. If it goes down the way we think it's going to go down, and Ed trades Belgium and Edinburgh for Warsaw and St. Petersburg, his growth prospects in this game are just about done, because he'll be able to get Warsaw.
Maybe Moscow still, maybe.
He's getting Warsaw now. Probably loses Budapest. He might get Moscow later. After Moscow, on a map like this, if it doesn't involve confrontation with Greg, the next most likely dot for Ed to grab is Sevastopol. Is not a dot that is held by the West. The West can't hold Sevastopol. It's very, very hard. So by trading Belgium and Edinburgh for St. Petersburg and Warsaw, Ed is maxed out. He's hanging out there in Budapest. He's going to keep Budapest at Matt Krill's good graces. It's the only dot he has any chance now of getting and keeping in the Balkans. Anything else is going to go to Matt Krill. Ed has overvalued peaceful relationship with his friends at the expense of both his tactical and his strategic position.
I mean,
this
he
map
needs
now.
Matt.
Excuse me?
I was going to say Ed now has given up any position for himself to move against France effectively. He needs Matt to help him do it. Matt is likely building 1, but Greg's building 2. So what's the incentive for Matt to go and give up momentum against Turkey by throwing his fleets west? I don't see any. But it's got to happen at some point. Matt
Krill has some ability to turn and go after France relatively quickly by doing so with his builds. He's just taken Bulgaria. let's see, it's spring. Let's see, in the fall, what else can he do? Because he took Bulgaria with that very, very clever double fleet convoy from Albania, actually has the chance to take Romania in the fall, especially if he has the assistance of Ed out of Budapest. So if he can get 2 builds and can drop 2 builds against France, then he has some prospect to it.
Ooh, yeah.
Ed has the ability to close Greg's build opportunity for him by saying, hey, we're getting to that point in the game. I need to keep you honest. I want to know what's going on where. You can put 2 on Belgium, put your 2 on Belgium. I'm going to attack Burgundy with 2. All you've got to do is support it, and you can't hurt me. And this just guarantees that I don't have to worry about any other shenanigans. And by doing that, he will make Marseille support Burgundy. And if Marseille has to support Burgundy, it's not available in the winter for a build. So if Matt and Ed are cooperating with each other to get Matt 2 builds for fleets to go after Greg, then Matt still has a chance to do that. But if they don't have that plan getting cooked up right now, Ed has put himself in a really bad position against Greg. He's got 3 fleets to Greg's 3 fleets. However, his fleets are in Barents and Berlin. So
yeah, Berlin. Yeah, that fleet has just stayed in dock.
Greg is 1 move away from being able to force North Sea. And he's walking into Eddie, and he's walking into Belgium, and then he turns around and forces North Sea, puts Greg on the defensive in Norway and in Denmark, has a predominance of force against Holland. And while Ed's force is protecting Holland, then Greg can force Ruhr. Ed has not put himself in a good position against Greg in the West. And the only hope he has of not getting bowled over like a steamroller is if he has a deal with Matt Krill.
You're talking.
Yeah.
Shall we have a look at a bit more detail in the East?
Excuse me?
Shall we have a look at the East in a bit more detail?
Sure.
I know that was all sort of part of the whole Germany and France thing, but I suppose at this stage of the game, there's a lot of domino effects. Looking at Russia, he's on borrowed time, right?
Russia's on borrowed time. Austria's on less than borrowed time. Turkey's on borrowed time. They're all completely and utterly done.
Why on earth aren't Russia and Turkey coordinating here?
Say are not.
Why aren't they?
They're not, because they're not gonna. I mean, they're simply not going to do it. Look at John's attack on Sevastopol. He's attacking. John is at 4. Okay, he's at 4, and he's about to lose Bulgaria. And anyone who can read a map knows he's about to lose Bulgaria. So what is he doing? He is cutting Sevastopol and supporting Ed into Romania. And that would have been successful. The only thing that's kept it from being successful is a beleaguered garrison. Matt Krill supported Sev into Rum.
Although
John
it is his own unit
to get ahead. He's trying to help Ed get more ahead. And I don't know what has gone on in the diplomacy between John and Spencer that is making this happen. But if you go back and you look at the history of the game, that's what I see on the map and in the orders, Spencer has done nothing in this game, nothing at all to deserve this kind of treatment from John.
Yeah, it's hard really to understand what must have happened in the negotiations between the two of them, because
I feel badly. I don't know what to say about John's play that's good.
I don't understand what has happened between
It may be carryover from some other game. They may have had interactions with each other in the past that make trust and cooperation impossible. But John has attacked Spencer all game. And just looking at the orders that you see on this map, I don't think that Russia has ever done anything that would demand the type of response that we have seen from Turkey. Even now, with Turkey sitting at 4, about to lose Bulgaria, he's not doing anything to try and advance himself. He's cutting Sev and supporting Ed into Romania, because that's what a 4-center Turkey needs to do to pursue his own best interest, is help create a 13-center Germany. No, it doesn't make any sense. I started this whole project out saying I'm going to be upbeat and positive and have encouraging and praiseworthy comments about all the players. I have felt bad every time we have done a show. I am struggling to find anything good to say about what John is doing. I was positive when they convoyed Armenia back into Bulgaria to check Karthik. I was laudatory when he then shifted the front and convoyed back into Armenia so that he could have a 2-on-1 on Seb if that's what he wanted to do. But taking
I think I thought this was a hidden RT.
They're hiding it all right. They're hiding it very effectively.
that is true. Oh gosh.
Russia and Turkey together at this point, if you take a look at effectively what they control, they currently have a dot center count of 9, but it's illusory. It's not true, because Russia's losing St. Pete, Russia's losing Warsaw, Turkey's losing Bulgaria. Russia and Turkey combined are now smaller, separately and individually, from Italy, from France, and from Germany.
Yeah, well, they're about to be.
Easily may outlive Spencer on this map.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call, to be honest.
Yeah, John will outlive both of them because he is in the corner, and only because he is in the corner. John,
maybe he's only played the way he has because he's in the corner there, right? Maybe he'd have approached it differently in Austria.
He had a very strong alliance with Italy that he could have used to his advantage and could have advanced the position if he had used his pieces to show a little bit of cautious defense against the possibility of Italian hostility. And he chose to pursue Spencer in very low percentage attacks against Russia that weren't going to exceed anyway. That's why I call them low percentage attacks, instead of leaving a unit or two in reserve to guard against the stab from Italy. It could be right now in an alliance with Italy that combined is bigger than France or bigger than Germany. He could have a say in how this game is going to end. He has given that up. He has given that up. So his only goal now, John's only effective goal now, is to outlive Spencer. That's all he has left to play for in this game. And you see here, it's 1905. And other than that one season where they convoyed Armenia back to Bulgaria to kick Karthik out of it, John has thrown units at Russia all game and has never gotten a thing for it.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure Italy and Germany have wonderful things to say about their intelligent, strategic conversations they've had with John and how well they were able to collaborate to accomplish certain things. But all those things that are being accomplished are to the benefit of people who are not named Jonathan.
Gosh.
So I want to spend Christmas at John's house because he's a very generous guy.
Well, the thing is, he's normally pretty ruthless, so it's hard to see what's happening here. I don't know.
Well, he's clearly been kidnapped, and someone should notify the authorities.
John, are you okay? This I
blink if you're under duress, John. Blink.
There's two code words. This would have been poetically beautiful if actually Bud had made it into Romania and Karthik had a chance to build. I know this is spring, but wouldn't that be glorious?
We have slightly different definitions of glory, sir.
Fun.
How about I take one of your British words out of my back pocket and just say would have been brilliant.
Would have been
brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah. Is that a British word? Do you not use that?
Not the way you do. If we use brilliant in America, we're either talking about light or intelligence.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's it. Using brilliant to mean awesome or cool. No, we don't do it.
Oh,
we don't do it.
The offended.
Young kids are just starting to use the word fire that way.
Oh, yeah.
No. Yeah. So.
No, stick with Brill. Brillo pads.
I was really surprised to see Brill bounce Tyrolia instead of moving a unit to it. He could have been in a position to force Vienna in the fall. No one was going to bounce. No one was going to move to Tyrolia except for Krill. And he bounced himself out.
Well, he obviously didn't want Ed there, did he? Maybe just, I don't know. I don't think it was a big risk of that, but make it look as if you're doing something for your units.
Maybe he thinks he's keeping Greg honest. There's a little bit of truth to that. Maybe he's keeping Greg honest, but he could keep Greg and Marseille honest almost as well from Tyrolia as he can from Venice. The difference is not that much.
No, you can move to Piedmont, but although you can't cover Tuscany. But I don't think there was a huge chance.
He was going to be able to cover Venice. And he has builds coming. So he could easily have taken the chance and put himself, because getting Vienna is not just getting Vienna. Getting Vienna sets himself up to take Budapest, to take Romania. And, Bulgaria plus Vienna, Budapest, Romania puts Matt Krill at 11.
The thing is, if he does anything to upset
that with Khan and Smyrna, that puts Matt Krill at 13. Krill eventually needs Vienna. He needs Vienna before he can reasonably hope to take Budapest and Romania. Although he's got the chance to do it in the fall now, because Trieste and Serbia can do it.
Yeah, if he does anything to upset Ed's game plan, then Ed could throw.
I'm making sure I make a direct eye contact with the camera, okay? Ed's already throwing this game. Ed's been throwing this game for a while now. He just really hasn't done the math properly and doesn't know that that's what he's doing.
No, you obviously haven't read the memo. Ed's fire.
Brilliant.
Is there anything else we need to talk about before we have a look at some?
Let's see. Tactically, Gaul could cut Warsaw, or Gaul could cut Ukraine, so Prussia and Silesia can force Warsaw. I expect to see Ed take Warsaw from Silesia so that Warsaw can then support Prussia into Livonia. Then you got Moscow link, because you're already going to have an army in St. Petersburg. You've got Kryl in Bulgaria with the army. Ionian's going to move to East Med with support from Aegean, while Greece supports Bulgaria to hold that Neapolitan ice cream situation that you've got there in Vienna, Budapest, Romania. That won't last one more year. That's going to evaporate. This game is rapidly boiling down to 3 big powers throwing their weight around.
Do you know what? Looking at this, I really wish, well, we said it last time, but I really wish that fleet, that northern Russian fleet, had been retreated off the board and replaced by an army. An army would be quite useful right now. If he had an army in Moscow right now, I'd feel a little bit happier.
If prolonging futility is a measure of utility, then I'll agree with you.
Well, you've got to be in it to win it. And, you know, Russia can bounce back from awkward situations, especially if, you know.
I am known hobby-wide as a pessimist and a cynic, so no one will be surprised that I disagree with you.
They don't know you like I do, Eric. Come on. You're a kitten. You're a kitten. They don't. Yeah, they're wrong. They're wrong.
Yeah, you are in possession of special facts, and if you ever disclose those facts, I will sue you.
Oh, okay. I will bear that in mind. I got no money. What can I say? It's a waste of time. Where are any tactics that we need to look in the?
Well, I don't have a prediction slide here ready, but I'm going to go ahead and predict. I think Greg will take Edinburgh. I think Greg will take Belgium. I think Ed will take St. Pete's, will take Warsaw. I think that Matt's going to put Ionian Sea in Eastern Med. I think Ed is going to survive in Budapest another season. I'm going to go out on a big old limb here. I think John is finally going to get Sevastopol in the fall. Wisen up, and he will take it with the fleet, because since he's losing Bulgaria, he's desperate for the build. He won't try and use black as a supporting unit anymore because Romania can cut it, and Romania has nothing else worthwhile to do. John's going to see the future. John's going to take Sev with the fleet so he can get the build that he badly needs. John will finally conquer Sev this fall.
We wouldn't build, but we wouldn't have to disband. But the thing is, Russia might be pulling that fleet anyway, potentially, given that he is losing at least 2 by the looks of it. But I suppose the big question.
All right, so let's pause my predictions. Let's talk. Let's have a very interesting conversation. Spencer will be down to 1 dot at the end of this year. He's losing St. Pete. He's losing Warsaw. He's losing Sev. He's losing Rum. He will be down to 1 dot at the end of this year. I think that's what's going to happen here.
Do you think Italy will be in Romania at the end of the next phase?
No, I don't. So Aegean's going to support Ionian to East Med. Ionian's going to go to East Med. Greece is going to support Bulgaria. Hold. You make negotiations and you make your proposals for fall, haven't already looked at spring. I could see Serbia supporting Budapest to Romania, Vienna to Budapest, Trieste to Vienna.
Okay, so that would still be 2 builds for Matt.
So that would still be 2 builds. That would still be 2 builds for Kryl. But the important thing that matters most for what I'm looking at, because what I want to see, I think this is the season that John finally conquers Sev. And he'll be conquering Sev at the end of 1905. John will lose Sev before 1908 is over. I think the most interesting area of the board right now is Vienna, Budapest, Romania, Ukraine, Sev. That's the only place on the board that really has interesting stuff going on right now. Everywhere else on the board, everything that's happening has already happened, and the rest is just ritual.
Well, interesting move. There was a lot of chatter about a lot of things, but predominantly about whatever the negotiations were, the diplomacy was between France and Germany.
Do we have a picture of money changing hands? That might be appropriate.
So let's have a look at some comments. We've got Ben says, but if this can be construed as waiting, it's a pretty great deal for France. Gets to go up 2 while Germany stays even, while also gaining position on the North Sea if he wants it.
That's a very good summary of my comments in this podcast. That's basically exactly what I said. Ben Kelman is an excellent player of the game. I've had the opportunity of being on more than one board with Ben, and he is an intelligent player. He can definitely read a map, and there's a reason that Ben and I agree 100%. Ben's little comment there is a perfect summation of over half the time I spent talking on this show. Ben, you're entirely correct.
Yeah, Ben only might be a bit of a quicker show. Grayson, wow, what a turn. It's so fascinating. And we only get to see the tactics. I can't imagine all the press going on in what appears to be a 3-horse race. Saren, if there were ever any doubts as to who the GOAT is, where can I sign up to take lessons from Greg? He's just controlling everything. Riaz, the thing I'm most surprised about is that fleet stuck in Berlin. I suppose he wanted to make sure he could guarantee Warsaw if he was going to move away. But yeah, it's always annoying seeing a fleet in dry dock. Baba Natale, I cannot imagine what kind of negotiations may have led Ed to allow Ewok to advance so much. Ed allows a lot, says Saren, but even for Ed, I have a hard time looking at the board and imagining that this was the plan. I agree with you, retorts Baba Natale. It seems too big a concession to agree on.
I agree with all those slides. Back up one. Back up. I agree with all those except for Saren. She says, I have a hard time looking at the board and imagining that this was the plan. If you look at the board, no other conclusion to make except that it was the plan. Because if anything else was the plan, Ed had it in his ability to prevent it without doing anything hostile to Greg. And he did none of those things. So I disagree with Saren. This clearly was the plan. It was just a really bad plan by Ed.
Well, we'll see how it works out. Although Riaz says, and yet every time we think Ed is in trouble, he pulls a rabbit out of his hat. It's going to be a fascinating fall season.
Stop. I like to predict the future, okay? I'm going to predict the future again, okay? I'm going to predict a piece of Lady Razor artwork. Lady Razor is going to draw a piece of art. It's going to have Ed pulling a rabbit out of his hat. That rabbit is going to have Matt Krill's face.
With 2 fleet builds, perhaps.
I want my 15% when you draw that one, Lady Razor.
Saren, he's not in trouble. Nobody's likely to hit him with the intention to kill. Although I guess some people would say that not winning is as bad or worse than dying. I can't relate, as second place is often my goal. What? You'd like topped like 90% of the boards you played the past year. Fall will give so many clues toward how Krill feels about all of this. Remarkable that they've let it come to this in 1905. Usually even when it goes fast, there's still 4 feasible contenders left. Although it looks like there's just 3 this
I'm
time.
gonna back up a slide.
Prediction?
I can't relate, as second place is often my goal. I'm going to briefly engage in editorial about the hobby. This hobby, in a macro perspective, has very much become a popularity contest where the established players with the biggest name and the biggest reputation cooperate with and collude with each other to push other players out of the way and off the board so that they can then share outcomes amongst and between each other that may or may not be top of the board, but are at least a decent outcome. And I've still maintained good relationships with all my friends. A, it makes the game very boring. B, it makes the game a frustrating and humiliating experience for new players who are trying to get into the hobby and have to listen to end of game reports from players saying, hey, new guy, we had an opportunity that we could have cooperated, but I know this person over here really, really well, and I just couldn't turn my back on them. Sorry, but thanks for wasting a month of your life playing this game so that you could be our prop. Hobby should value welcoming, including, and cooperating with new players and giving them the opportunity to have good experiences so that they come back for more and more and more games, instead of the opposite of being an opportunity for people who've been on some medium or another coming and playing buddy diplomacy with their friends for 20 years. Diplomacy is the greatest game ever invented, and we should have thousands upon thousands of people playing this game, not the same 30 people going to face-to-face convention after face-to-face convention after face-to-face convention so that they can split their boards between them and then go to the bar and talk about what flavored gin they like to drink.
The flower. Oh, sorry.
I prefer anise, but
I hope you don't mind. I thought it fit to just change your name on the screen for a moment.
I noticed it a minute ago, and it made me wonder when the change occurred.
Not long ago.
I may deserve it. But I have said no names for a reason. I am not being critical of anybody. The people who engage in this kind of play certainly aren't doing anything wrong. They are following the meta, and they are doing what gets them the best results for them individuals over time.
Well, this is to be serious. I know I'm poking fun, but this is why I think the powers that be should stick to the 7 semi-final format, because it meant that each of these players who made this final had to win, had to top their board. There was no sharing or getting them. They all were the best on their individual boards and made it into the final. I think that was.
I am going to be building and put together a league that only rewards solos and puts you on a board with 6 other people who all know that they are also playing 4 solos and only 4 solos. And I'm going to invest my own resources and my own time to make it happen. And I'm going to include incentivization that will make it worth people wanting to try to play for it. And I hope to change the dynamic so that we don't end up with people who are comfortable on the internet to go on and say, yeah, I just want to come in second so that I can build my relationships with the popular kids.
That's
That's not why Alan Calamer built this game. And I know because I played with Alan.
This was the Grumbell corner. Let's continue. Riaz points out there is a fourth power that still has time to come back if the conflict between the big three begins fairly soon. Although Trigg says replace soon with immediately. John asks Seren, his position is better than Spencer's. And Riaz confirms John is the wild card. Really smart player, fantastic tactician, really strong diplomat. He still has enough time if he can stay at 4. Now that, as you point out, does require him getting Sevastopol here.
I think even if he gets Sevastopol, it doesn't matter because he's lost Bulgaria, and Bulgaria is his gateway to all the dots on the board. The reason that Turkey can come back late in the game and make that big surge is because everything between Turkey and the stalemate line is nothing but dots. Bulgaria, Greece, Serbia, Romania, Budapest, Trieste, Vienna, dot, 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 dot. Progressing to the stalemate line naturally gets him more dots. It's an advantage that is unique to Turkey. Every other player on the board has to forego dots in order to make best possible speed to the stalemate line. This is the advantage that is inherent to Turkey. If Turkey gets Sev, yes, he is at 4. But by being at 4 in a way that does not include Bulgaria, his growth is permanently stunted unless he can take Bulgaria back. And he no longer has the ability to force Bulgaria back. He can only get it back through diplomatic means, whether it be coercion or deceit. As long as Matt Krill keeps Bulgaria, John will not make it back into this game. Diplomacy is a great, great game. And I think what makes it great is the ability to make such strong and lasting friendships. And I think those strong and lasting friendships are infinitely valuable. Even I, with the reputation that I have, and I've earned it, have many, many, many good friends from this hobby. But when those friendships play out in a way that consistently impacts who is allied with who on these boards, it is to the detriment of the hobby. Okay. Last bit of commentary. If we are playing our competitive diplomacy in an environment where consistently playing for second place is a path to success in the event, scoring system is defective.
On that note, thank you very much for joining us. It's been brilliant.
Sorry I wasn't so nice today.